this is your marketplace.
You know what I take in my coffee? It's a medium camera.
We're wiring up, going undercover, inside some of Canada's most popular fast food chains.
Hello.
We want to know more about some of the hottest items now available on the menu. Halal.
I heard you guys offering halal.
Halal means permissible, food that's prepared according to Islamic guidelines. The CFIA requires any product that's sold as halal to be certified. But are those regulations working well enough for those who eat halal? To find out, we're asking restaurants what they know about the halal food they're selling.
Are you guys a halal restaurant?
And whether we can really trust the certificates we're being shown. But first, it's no doubt that halal is gaining in popularity.
It meets to the halal standards.
At this Halal Expo, just outside of Toronto, we're taking in everything halal, from meat to baked goods, even spices.
I think that's it. Halal right there.
The halal food industry is booming, with Canadians spending over $1 billion a year on halal food products.
It's growing.
Yeah?
It's growing fast.
It's growing day by day. As you know, there are 500,000 immigrants coming in, and most of them are looking for halal products in particular.
Halal certified.
For meat, like chicken, beef, or lamb, to be considered halal, the animal must first be in good health and treated humanely. Then, a prayer is recited before the animal is slaughtered by a Muslim, with a swift, deep cut across the throat, done either by hand with a knife or with a machine. And that meat cannot come into contact with any non-halal meat, including pork, which is never allowed.
So like over here, you're going in the Grand Bazaar.
The search for halal food starts for Mohammed and Sarah Arfan some 10 years ago, when they first moved to Canada from Dubai.
So we, even as a couple, struggled, where do we go out for food and stuff, where do we eat, etc. So that's when this idea hit us that, we should do something for the community.
Now they share the spots they find on their YouTube channel, Into Spices.
We are once again back at the Ridgeway Plaza in Mississauga.
Thousands of followers tune in every week.
Grilled to perfection.
When they dine out, they have a list of questions about the halal food restaurants are serving.
So what we're looking for is the meat halal? Can we see the certificate? Is there any cross-contamination between any non-halal meat and the halal meat?
If they don't get the answers they're looking for, they don't eat there.
What's at risk if the information you get is wrong?
At the end of the day, it affects our faith and our belief. So we feel hurt. It's like sabotaging your faith.
So we want to see if we can get clear answers from restaurants. And with the help of experts, we come up with a checklist. We're asking, is everything halal? Are they certified? Is the certification up to date? Where do they get their meat from? And is it hand or machine cut?
Hello.
We're visiting KFC, Popeyes, Mary Brown's, Osmow's, and Boston Pizza.
Just saw halal sign outside, so you actually have halal?
Visiting 2 locations of each with a colleague who eats halal. First up, is everything on the menu halal?
I heard you guys offering halal.
5 of the restaurant locations we visit can't give us a straight answer, including this Mary Brown's.
Is that
Yeah, it's
all the food or just the chicken?
chicken. It's everything. We even have the certificate.
But then,
Yeah,
Do you know if the banana pudding is halal?
he doesn't.
So there's only chicken happy halal.
But
That's what I
but I
understand.
thought the whole restaurant is like
Everything's
all the
halal.
product is halal.
the employee isn't quite clear on what halal is.
The halal is only means it's chicken, right?
It's the same thing that we go through. Is it just the meat, or is it like the cheese product or the dairy product? Because certain times they would add gelatin in it, and most of us know that the gelatin is coming from a fat source of a non-halal product like pork or pig.
So in order for a restaurant to be entirely halal, all the boxes need
All
to
the
be
boxes need to be checked.
Next up, are any of the 10 restaurants we're visiting certified? At Popeyes, we're told they are.
Is the restaurant certified halal?
Yeah.
The whole restaurant is?
Yeah.
Certified halal? Okay.
seems promising at first, but then when we ask to see the certificate,
So this is for Amir quality meats.
we're shown a certificate for a meat supplier, not the restaurant. And right there on the certificate, it says, not for restaurants' use.
So we're talking today about transparency within the halal industry.
As the head of the Halal Monitoring Authority, the HMA, Imam Omar Subadar runs one of the most well-known certifying agencies in Canada. We show him our hidden camera findings.
That is common, unfortunately. Right? That certificate has been issued to one company, but restaurants are taking the liberty to go ahead and display that as if they are certified.
Unless each ingredient and meat source has been checked, Subadar says restaurants should not claim to be certified.
I would be very disappointed if I was the customer of that restaurant and having to find out that I am being misled.
But Popeyes isn't the only one. Over at this Mary Brown's, the certificates are also for the meat suppliers, not the restaurant. But then,
So you get all your chicken from those two?
No, we get chicken from somewhere else, but this is like the certificate that we have officially been checked.
the employee suggests the certificate on the wall means the HMA has checked their restaurant.
Wow, that's tremendously disingenuous. Right? I mean, he's openly admitting that the chicken is coming from somewhere else, but the end consumer is not going to know that unless they ask, like you did. So, yeah, it's very disappointing.
Just to be clear, does your organization certify that Mary Brown's location?
We certify no Mary Brown's location, not even a single one. We have no connection with Mary Brown's.
6 of the 10 restaurant locations told us they were certified, when in fact, none of them are. Next up, where do they get their meat from? Over at KFC, we're told they get all their chicken from Maple Lodge, a major manufacturer of halal meat. But when we ask to see the certificate, it's for another supplier.
Eden Valley Poultry. So sorry, all the chicken comes from Maple Lodge?
Yeah.
Okay, but that one's not Maple Lodge.
That's what we got from the company. Like, I am seriously not have that much idea.
Things aren't any clearer at another KFC location.
I just wonder who the supplier is for the chicken.
Maple Lodge.
Maple Lodge is the supplier? Okay.
But once again, the certificate says otherwise.
Sunrise Poultry, not Maple Lodge.
But the halal, it's come from the different one. So that's why it's Sunrise Poultry.
The inconsistency continues at this Mary Brown's in Toronto, where we're shown 2 certificates for suppliers, not the restaurant itself.
For the chicken. Yeah.
Okay.
And this is
And this one's for Royal Poultry. So this is for the chicken too?
This is our supplier, the chicken. This is their certification.
Mary Brown says that your HMA certificate is where they get their meat from, and then they go on to say that another certifying agency is certifying your certificate.
That makes no sense.
Confused? Consumers are too. Well, the CFIA says anything that's sold as halal has to be certified. They don't regulate who can be a certifier. And right now, there are more than a dozen different agencies in Canada and no agreed upon standards for them to follow.
With so many certifiers, are there some concerns as far as, different bodies having different regulations, different standards?
Yeah, definitely there are concerns. The thing is, everyone is going to approach halal with a different lens, and that does complicate things not only for the industry but also for the community.
One standard that differs between certifiers is whether the meat is machine or hand cut. It's one of the most important pieces of information for many Muslim consumers, but it's a distinction that is not required on the certificate, which means consumers often have to ask.
Some people are okay eating the machine-slaughtered halal food. I would say the gold standard, let's put it that way, of halal is the Zabiya halal.
And Zabiha halal means
Hand-slaughtered.
So can the restaurants we visit tell us? At this KFC, they can't.
Is it slaughtered by hand? or machine, because they do different.
At this Boston Pizza, they can't tell us either.
And do you know if this is machine or hand slaughter?
You don't know.
No.
Is it?
Oh, no. Do you think that's something that should be on a certificate?
It should be.
So it's a simple thing as having two check boxes: machine slaughtered, hand slaughtered.
Yeah.
Tick, there you go. Certificate done.
Getting the right answers isn't so simple at Osmow's either. We're shown a certificate for maple leaf and told the chicken is machine cut.
But nothing here is hand slaughtered for sure. Everything is machine cut.
Oh, you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. But Maple Leaf's halal products are only slaughtered by hand, not machine.
It seems like they were wrong.
Fortunately, they were not giving accurate information.
At 4 of the locations, they couldn't tell us the method of slaughter or got it wrong. And at this Boston Pizza, the certificates we were shown expired 8 years ago.
If you saw this in your experience, what would you have done?
Leave.
Leave.
Just leave.
Leave.
Whenever we see the certificate, if it's expired, we back out.
In fact, we found a total of 8 expired certificates at 3 restaurants. While there may be some restaurant locations serving up the right info, our spot check of 10 locations left us with a considerable amount of confusion.
Should any of this be tough to answer? Should any of this be hard?
No, it should not be tough. There should be some form of orientation that's given to the employees so that they can give proper answers to the customer.
We want answers too.
Osmow's tells us all of their products are hand slaughtered and that they will reach out to their certifiers to learn more about the process. Mary Brown says they will continue to educate their frontline staff on how to identify halal ingredients with confidence. They also say they are committed to transparency. Boston Pizza says locations that offer halal are required to complete online training and that their certificates are regularly updated.
KFC and Popeyes did not respond to our request for comment.
And would you have eaten at or featured any of the places we've shown you?
No.
No.
It is very frustrating because when you want to walk in to have a nice meal, this is the last thing that you need to be worried about.
Coming up, protecting consumers when the stakes are high.
There were those that were selling halal and it wasn't really halal.
We go looking for a better way. This is your marketplace. It's a growing industry across the country, but our investigation reveals an unregulated halal certification system that's leaving consumers questioning what they're getting.
Wow, that's tremendously disingenuous.
So we're in Newark, New Jersey, where halal transparency is the law. And it has been for more than 20 years with the state's Halal Food Consumer Protection Act.
Hi!
How are you?
Hi, Charlie. So nice to meet you.
Akbar Salam has owned a halal meat shop in Newark for 57 years.
I'm also going to get some of the beef bacon.
Okay.
He advocated for the law, which was the first of its kind in the United States.
What was happening at that time that you needed that legislation?
What was happening is there were those that were selling halal and it wasn't really halal. So therefore, this Consumer Protection Act was very, 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 very important.
And so this is your disclosure statement.
The law requires any business selling halal to post a disclosure form for consumers to see.
So a couple of examples on here. This establishment sells only halal, both halal and non-halal meat.
Correct. So therefore, the vendor would check off which one applies to him.
There's also things on here, we do or do not have pork products.
Correct.
So this allows people to really clearly see what standards this business or this establishment's following.
It gives comfort to the consumer.
It also allows the state to sanction businesses that don't comply. In the past 3 years, 18 businesses have been fined for selling halal food without a disclosure form.
It's a game changer.
In Jersey City, we catch up with Asin Mirza. He runs Jersey Halal Spots, a social media account that promotes halal restaurants for the state's growing Muslim population.
The demand for halal food is tremendous. Now with the disclosure form, now with social media, people know very quickly if a restaurant's halal or not.
And how do you think this information and these disclosure forms is working for consumers?
I think it really helps because it takes kind of the guessing out of what's halal and isn't.
Unlike in Canada, there's no guessing game here.
Now, you're actually going to take me to some restaurants here that are halal restaurants and have these disclosure forms.
Yeah, let's go. Let's get some food.
Okay.
Here's our first stop of the day, Lari Adda.
Okay.
At this Indian-Pakistani restaurant, all the meat is halal, and that's spelled out on the form right behind the counter. Sean Qureshi is the owner.
When customers come in, are they asking you to see it? Do they have questions?
Yeah, they have some, they are asking for the halal food, and then I show them there is like halal disclaimer I pasted over here. They can see, and after that they're satisfied and they can eat over there like very happily.
And over at this Chinese halal takeout window,
can I see your halal disclosure form, please?
These customers rely on the disclosure forms.
It's just like a, I guess, reinforcement to say like the restaurant is a safe place to eat. So, yeah.
We prefer the forms, it's because it's visual. You don't even have to ask them because sometimes the staff doesn't really know what it is. It's like a peace of mind.
In Canada, we don't have a form like this. Oftentimes, consumers will go into businesses, but they actually can't get the answers to some of these questions.
If you post that your business is halal, then you should at least answer all the questions that your customer asks you in reference to that.
So this is the halal disclosure statement that is the law in the state of New Jersey.
That's wonderful.
Back in Canada, food vloggers Mohammed and Sarah Arfan would love to see the same amount of transparency on display at restaurants in New Jersey here at home.
So they've got a complete checklist.
Yep.
Milk and dairy, the yogurt, your
That's
cheese.
what we should have in Canada.
I don't even have to ask. I can get all the information from the form.
And that's
It
exactly
saves
what
the
you
hassle.
need. You know, it just saves you the hassle.
Of asking again and again.
It should be as simple as this.
Shop owner Ramadan Nagmouche has no trouble answering questions about the halal he sells.
This is a supplier you've used
That's
for...
my main one.
And for how long?
Oh, been together maybe for over 6 years.
And so you know this is halal?
Yes.
How do
yes.
you know?
Oh yeah, we check around. We have some people who works there.
But you won't find a certificate here at Mona's Fine Meats in London, Ontario.
Customers are coming here because they want halal meat.
Yes, they do. Quality and it's halal and they trust us for the sources.
Ramadan was put on a decertified list after he stopped paying another certifier $350 a month for certification. He says it got too expensive and months would go by without the certifier coming to check his store.
Since getting on this decertified list, has anything changed with the halal meat that you're bringing in?
Never, no.
So it's all the same product?
Same product, same supplier, before them, after them, same thing.
Okay.
I never change.
You just don't have the certificate anymore?
That's it.
Ramadan says he wants more consistency and oversight on the certifiers.
They are regulating us. Who's regulating them? How often do you go to the slaughterhouses? How often they come to us? I like to have it, like a government regulation.
And if it was federally regulated, that's a system you would pay for?
I would.
You would?
I love to.
When we return, a call for change.
You'd like to see certifiers, just like yourselves, federally regulated by the government.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
But will the government listen? This is your marketplace. We've uncovered you can't always trust what you're being told when it comes to the halal food you're being sold at some of Canada's most popular restaurants.
Everything is machine cut.
Oh, you should.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's got some calling for change.
Why does eating out at a restaurant have to be like a root canal treatment to your dentist, right? It doesn't need to be.
Omar Subadar says the current certification system needs to be regulated too.
You'd like to see certifiers, just like yourselves at the HMA, federally regulated by the government.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
What kinds of things do you think should be happening that aren't now? Should they be doing spot checks like we just did?
100%. Yeah, they should be, like, all of us should be audited. First and foremost, we need to decide what the standard is going to be. Everyone needs to be aligned with those standards. And then there should be periodic audits, just like there's audits for everything else, right?
We asked the CFIA for an interview, but they declined. In a statement, they did tell us that the intent of its certification requirement is to provide consumers with information so that they can make informed decisions. They also say that the responsibility falls to the certifiers to ensure that religious requirements are adhered to. In the meantime, Mohammed and Sarah have a message for restaurants selling halal.
It's a big industry right now, right? Everybody wants to be a part of it. But then you want to be a part of it, do it properly.
And until that happens, these two have a tip for consumers.
Till we have like a unified solution or the government steps up,
Do your own due diligence.
do your own due diligence.